Okay, the meeting of the Board of Education is reconvened. Madam Secretary, please proceed with the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I begin, I would like to note that Dr. Hines has joined the board meeting via telephone. Dr. Hines?
Yes.
She said yes.
Can you? Is the microphone over the phone?
It's okay, that's all we can hear.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I will start with items from closed session. And I will begin with a council retention. This item does require a vote. Shesky and Froelich LTD. Mr. President, this item does require a vote.
I may have a motion.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll proceed with a roll call. Dr. Beenan?
Yes.
Dr. Hines?
She said yes. We'll interpret for you here.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Quazzo?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. I will continue with settlements and other matters. These items do require a vote, and they are: first report, workers' compensation, payment of lump sum settlement for Dorothy Richardson, case number 07WC 31301. The second report is workers' compensation, payment of lump sum settlement for Yolanda Weaver, case number 06WC 7479. Third report, approved settlement agreement with Indigo Construction Company. Moving on to the other matters portion. First report, appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law, Richard Seth Sheppy. Second report, appoint Assistant General Counsel, Department of Law, Lance F. Johnson. Third report, authorize payment of attorney's fees in the matter of Board of Education of the City of Chicago versus Illinois State Board of Education, case number 13C2782. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with items from the Chief Executive Officer, and I will begin with personnel appointments. These items do require a vote, and they are: first report, transfer and appoint Chief of Schools, Network 3, Randall Josserand. Second report, transfer and appoint Chief of Schools, Network 6, Harold Chip Johnson. Third report, principal contract, new ALSC. And, Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with items from the board, and these items do require a vote, and they are: first report, resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss educational support personnel. The second report is the resolution approving the Chief Executive Officer's recommendation to dismiss a probationary appointed teacher. And for the record, Mr. President, I would like to note that on December 4, 2013, the board members and the office of the board received the CEO's recommendation to dismiss a probationary appointed teacher pursuant to Board Rule 4-7B2B and 105 ILC S 5/34-84. Her recommendation included the name of the teacher affected and the reason. She also noted that the teacher affected will be notified of their dismissal after adoption of the resolution. And, Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I believe that Vice President Reese has a motion, please.
Yes, I move that the board adopt the minutes of the closed session meetings of October 23rd, 2013 and November 6th, 2013 pursuant to Section 2.06 of the Open Meetings Act. Board members review these minutes and determine that the need for confidentiality continues to exist. Therefore, the minutes of the closed session meetings held on October 23rd, 2013 and November 6th, 2013 shall be maintained as confidential and not available for public inspection at this time.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I'll proceed with the roll call. Dr. Beenan?
Yes.
Dr. Hines?
Harriet, can you hear that?
Yes.
There we go.
There we are. Thank you. Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Quazzo?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays, and I believe Board Member Quazzo has a motion, please.
I move that the records of proceedings of the regular board meeting of October 23rd, 2013, and the special board meeting of November 6, 2013, prepared by the board secretary, be approved, and that such recordings of proceedings be posted on the Chicago Board of Education website in accordance with Section 2.06B of the Open Meetings Act.
May I have a second?
Second?
Yes.
Thank you. I'll proceed with the roll call. Dr. Beenan?
Yes.
Dr. Hines?
Yes.
Vice President Reese?
Yes.
Board Member Quazzo?
Yes.
Dr. Escoitia?
Yes.
President Vitale?
Yes.
6 ayes, 0 nays. I will continue with real estate items from exec. These items do require a vote. First report, disposition of bids received for the sale of land located at 4421 South State Street. The second report is the disposition of bids received for the sale of land located at 50th Street and Racine Avenue. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
If there are no objections from fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will continue with items on the public agenda and only read the board report numbers since the titles and board reports appeared on the public agenda. And I will begin with resolutions. These items do require a vote, and they are RS1, RS2. Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now continue with communications, and these items do not require a vote. The first communication is CO1. This communication is regarding the location of the board meeting for December 18th. This is to advise that the regular meeting of the Board of Education scheduled for Wednesday, December 18th, 2013, will be held at the Central Administration Building, 125 South Clark, Board Chambers, 5th floor. The board meeting will begin at 10:30 a.m. Public participation guidelines are available on www.cpsboe.org or by calling the board office at 773-553-1600. For the December 18, 2013 board meeting, advance registration to speak will be available beginning Monday, December 9th at 8 a.m. and close Friday, December 13th at 5 p.m. or until all slots are filled. And you could advance register during the registration period by the following methods: online, by phone, or in person. The public participation segment of the meeting will begin as indicated in the meeting agenda and proceed for no more than the 60 registered speakers. Mr. President, the second communication is CO2, and I would like to note that it was drafted on the agenda and the final will be included in the action. And it reads, communication rate reappointment of trustee to serve on the Public School Teachers Pension and Retirement Fund of Chicago, Dr. Carlos M. Ascoitia. To the members of the Board of Education of the City of Chicago, I hereby reappoint Dr. Carlos M. Ascoitia to serve as a trustee on the Public School Teachers Pension and Retirement Fund of Chicago. Dr. Ascoitia's term will commence November 2013 and expire November 2015. Respectfully submitted, David J. Vitale, President. Thank you. I will now continue, Mr. President, with additional items on the public agenda that do require a vote, and they are EX1, ED1, ED2, and I would like to note an abstention on ED2 for Dr. Ascoitia. The next item is ED3, and also for the record, I would like to note an abstention for Dr. Ascoitia on ED3. Moving on to ED4, I would like to note for the record an abstention for Vice President Reese on ED4. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote with the noted abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll continue with additional items on the public agenda that require a vote, and they are PR1. And for the record, I would like to note abstentions for Vice President Reese as well as Board Member Quazzo on PR1. Moving on to PR2, 3, 4. PR5. For PR6, for the record, I would like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese. Moving on to PR7. For PR8, for the record, I would like to note abstentions for Vice President Reese as well as Board Member Dr. Beenan on PR8. Moving on to the next item, PR9. On PR10, for the record, Mr. President, I would like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese on PR10. Moving on to PR11. On PR12, for the record, I would also like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese. On PR12, we then have PR13, 14. On PR15, Mr. President, for the record, I would like to note an abstention for Vice President Reese. And also on PR16 for Vice President Reese. And Mr. President, these items do require a vote.
Madam Secretary, if there are no objections from my fellow board members, please apply the last favorable roll call vote with the noted abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will now continue with additional items that do not require a vote, and they are EX2, EX3, and AR1. And Mr. President, these items just need to be accepted by the board.
Madam Secretary, please mark received and filed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, there are no further items on the public agenda. I will proceed with the statement to be read into the record regarding the estimate of taxes to be levied. President Vitale and members of the board, please be advised that I have received a report dated November 20th, 2013, from the Chief Financial Officer pursuant to the authority delegated to him in Board Rule 5-14. This report estimates that the amount of money necessary to be raised by taxation upon the taxable property in the district as defined in Section 18-60 of the Property Tax Code is $2,283,700,000. The report also certifies that this estimate amount is less than the limit defined in Section 18-70 of the code and specifies that the amount of the levies that will actually be extended in 2014 will be determined in the FY 2015 budget process. Please let the record reflect that I am placing a copy of the Chief Financial Officer's report in the record of this meeting and will include the report in the official proceedings of the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
We are adjourned.